Alright everyone, we're going to talk now about how to do your Works Cited page. So I want you to pay close attention to this video because the Works Cited is an important part of each major writing assignment that you do. And the tips in this will likely apply to every Works Cited entry that you do. They're not going to all be exactly the same, but the same principles apply and it's pretty standardized across the board. So if you haven't taken an English class for a while, a few years ago the MLA changed their guidelines again. So this is according to the most up-to-date MLA guidelines, the 8th edition. And so chances are if you've taken an English class in the past couple of years, you've already been using 8th edition. But if it's been longer than a few years, you're probably were using 7th edition or something previous to that. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And as a heads up, I am using Microsoft Word on my Mac. But unlike the formatting video where we had to go and do a lot of more complicated things in Microsoft Word, this process is relatively simple in terms of formatting. So yours might look a little bit different than this, but I don't think it'll be a big deal. You should be able to find everything. If you've gone through the formatting video, you know where all the right places to go are. So first thing, once you've got your page open, and really your Works Cited page is going to be the last page of your document. So this is it's going to be the last page of your paper. So just add a new page at the end, and this is going to be that page. I need to show you where the go-to resource for MLA information is. So we're going to come back to this page, and remember in course documents there was an MLA resources page. Well, that is there for an important reason, and I put it at the top so that you know where it always is. So we're first going to click on MLA resources, and that's going to show us where we can go for our MLA help. So you can see there's a formatting and style guide linked here, a Works Cited page, in-text citations, frequently asked questions. A lot of times, certain scenarios will crop up. Chances are that might be addressed in this page, and if not, you can always send me a message. So we're going to click on how to write the Works Cited page. And these are all links to the Purdue University Online Writing Lab's website. So I've kind of indexed their resources here. So based on the type of source you're using, you're going to find the right link. So let's look at our sources here. Here's our first one. And here's our second one. And this is not the second one. This is the second one. There we go. Okay, so we've got this one and we've got this one. That looks right. So we need to figure out what kind of source we have first. Need to go back to our page here and figure out which link. So looking at these are not books. Looks like the closest bet here is going to be on electronic sources because these are accessed electronically. So we're going to click on that link, and that's going to take us to the Purdue OWL website. And so here we are at the website. Now when you access this website, you might notice there's advertisements that kind of pop up all over the place. I've installed an ad blocker in my browser, so that makes it a lot less obnoxious. So if you're using Google Chrome, you can do a Google search for ad blockers for Google Chrome, and they are awesome because now you don't have all the ads. So here we are on the electronic sources. Now here we still need to do a little bit of browsing, but we've got this nice left-hand menu here for different types of sources as well. So you can come straight to their website and find the right type of source if you want to, but I just figured I'd save you a step. Now there's some important information. I would read over all of this before you even get into it, right? Because it says, for example, here, when you include a URL, you want to eliminate HTTP in the URL. So you wouldn't know that unless you read that right there. So there's some important information here. And here's kind of the general format, but we're not using an entire website, right? Because we're just using one page on that website. So we're going to go down to a page on a website, and that's going to be probably our best bet here. Or the other closest one would be an article in a web magazine. So The Atlantic is a web magazine. NPR could be classified as maybe a web magazine, but more like a website. So, or it's a news site, I guess. So we're going to use one of those, and they're about the same. So let's go back to a page on a website. We're going to use this to help us build our Works Cited entry. So you just basically follow the templates here. These templates are a little bit different though, because basically this one doesn't have a publication date and this one does. So we want to include that publication date. This is a better template, but the weird thing is this one has an author, this one doesn't have an author. So you can see if there's no author, you start with the title. Both of our sources have authors, luckily. So we start with the author, and before we do anything else, the next thing we're going to do is set up our document in Microsoft Word. So going back to what we said before, this is going to be hypothetically the last page, a new page that you create in your editorial essay. So assuming that's the case, you're already going to be in Times New Roman font because you watched the formatting video. You're size 12 because you've watched the formatting video. You're double spaced, but I haven't done that ahead of time, so I'm going to go ahead and make that happen. I'm going to make sure that I am double spaced. I've got my spacing 0 here, before and after 0. Okay, so now I've got the right font. I'm going to create a heading on my page that says Work Cited. Now, an important note about this, if you have one source in your paper, you're going to say Work Cited because it's just one work. But if you use both sources, you're going to add an S, Works Cited, because it's plural, right? More than one. Then we're going to create it. So that's centered at the top, no bold, no underline, no italics, just Works Cited, spell it like that, capital W, capital C. Easy, right? Okay, now we come back here. So we need to start with the author's last name, comma, then the first name. So if we're doing this source, we need to find our author. Here we have our author right here. So we're going to type her name in that order. So we want to make sure to spell the author's name right in our paper and in our Works Cited. That's very important. Shows proper respect. So we've got that down. Next step, we need to have the title of the article, which is right here. And so we can maybe try to copy and paste that title into it, but I recommend just typing it out because sometimes the title's written in all capital letters, or sometimes it's written in all lowercase letters or something strange. These titles are actually standardized the way we want them to be, but it's usually just safer to type them out. So we're going to put quotation marks and we're going to say the title. And something I want you to notice here is that we capitalize the first letter of each important word in the. So pretty much words except for like words like a or the, of, we don't need to capitalize the first letter of those words, but the rest of them we do. And sometimes some prepositions we don't have to capitalize, but so notice how we start most of the words with a capital letter there. And then we've got our quotation marks. Notice that the period at the end goes inside the quotation marks. That's true in your Works Cited and in your paper when you include a title. So we've got our title. We want to make sure we got it right there. So that's the next step. And then we go to the website title, the title of the website, and we italicize that. So our website title is The Atlantic. So this is known as the container. So we need to put where the source was contained. In this case, it's a website, The Atlantic. So we're going to follow the same capitalization rules there. And we want to make that italics, just like we had in our example here. After that, we have, in this example at least, our date of publication. So let's see if we can find that. Here we have June 25th, 2020. We're going to change the formatting for that date. And after our container, we put a comma. We're going to stop italicizing it there. So comma, and then we have our date. Notice it's 25 September, which is abbreviated to 4 letters, and then the year. So back to our article, it's June 25th, 2020, but we're going to write it out as the same. So we start with the day, then we abbreviate June. Well, actually, we don't need to abbreviate June because it's only 4 letters. 25 June, and then 2020, and that is our date. If it's more than 4 letters, we'd want to abbreviate it. So like April would be APR with a period, September SEPT with a period. So there we've got our date. And after that, we put another comma and our URL. Now remember our special rule for our URL. Does anybody remember what it is? Think back to what we read up at the top. I'm going to paste that URL in. Sometimes when you paste the URL in, it changes the font. See that? That really looks wrong. It messed everything up. So here's a tip I'm going to give you. When you paste it, right click. And if you're using Windows, this will look a little different, but there will be different options for paste. And you want to choose the option that says merge formatting. So I'm going to say paste special and say unformatted text. But in a Windows PC, you would say merge formatting and choose that option. So notice here now I don't have the formatting problems. So anybody remember the rule from before? There's something I need to do to alter this URL. So see if you can think of what that is. At the top of the website, it says we need to take out part of the URL, and that's this right here. So we're going to take out the http://, and we're going to put a period at the end of the URL. Now, if this turns blue, if it becomes a hyperlink, that is totally cool if that happens. It's not a problem as long as you're consistent. So both of them would need to be blue. And so this is our... So we could have that. That looks nice, and that way somebody could click on it and go straight to the source. But this isn't the right website. So I'm realizing now I grabbed the wrong URL. So, okay, this is I grabbed the URL for this page. We want this one from the Atlantic. Good to catch your mistakes before it's too late, right? So again, I'm going to go to paste special, unformatted text, take out the HTTP. I want to make this a hyperlink. And then I'm also going to add a period at the end there. Okay, so as a period after that, commas after everything else. Then you can include your access date, the day you accessed the article. You notice that in this one they did, and this one they didn't. It's just kind of a nice courtesy. So this is going to depend on the day that you actually accessed it. So if it was today, I would say access 29 June 2020. So that is our completed entry. See, we've got our author, title, container, date, URL, access date. We're almost done there. Now, hopefully yours is double spaced. If not, you're going to need to double space it. But we also need to create a hanging indent. So in a works cited entry, so a paragraph usually starts with an indent at the first line. Works cited is opposite, where the first line is all the way aligned to the left and the second line is indented. And if it's longer than 2 lines, all the additional lines after the first one would be indented. That's called a hanging indent. So I'm going to teach you a cool little trick for this. And the best way to do this is to use the keyboard shortcut. If you're using Microsoft Word, you're going to highlight your entry. And if you're using Windows, you're going to say Control and T. Press Control and T at the same time. If you're using Mac, it's going to be Command T. So you have to have it highlighted. If you're not using Microsoft Word, this will not work. But there are other ways to do it. So if you're in Google Docs, you just Google, how do I do a hanging indent in Google Docs? And it's fairly simple. So I'm going to do this, highlight it, and Control T, or in my case, I'm using a Mac, so Command T. And magically, I have my hanging indent. Very cool. That's what your works cited entry should look like. So I've showed you how to do it for the first source. You can see and check yours against mine. Nobody should lose any points on this entry, right? Because I did it with you. But I'm going to let you do the second one on your own. So let's just walk through it real quick. We need to start with our author. We've got our author here. We need our title. Here's our title. They've standardized the capitalization for us, so you just use that title. But make sure, sometimes people will start writing their entry and then they paste the title in. But look, we don't want the title to be in huge letters like this. So again, remember that trick I taught you? Right click, go to Paste Special, Unformatted Text. If you're on a Mac or on a Windows, you would choose the option that says Merge Formatting. And so that way it doesn't paste it in a different font. Same goes for the URL. So you've got that, you've got your date of publication here, you've got your URL up here. You've got everything you need to build a works cited entry for this source. Just you follow the same pattern. Remember to standardize the capitalization, put the title in quotation marks. Remember to italicize the container. Remove http://. Put the commas in the right places and periods in the right places. Standardize the date in this format, so it would be, in this case, 25 June 2020, or and so forth. So if you get confused, you can always go back to this website and they'll tell you how to do it, right? Look at our examples. That can refresh your memory. So enough talking for me. There's your works cited for the first source. See if you can figure it out for the second one. And check the frequently asked questions MLA page if you have any questions that come up. And then also message me if you have any questions. But just a hint on this second source. The container is NPR, and they put it in lowercase letters, but I would go ahead and capitalize NPR when you put that in as your container. All right, that's all.